I had loved Xia Shuer for 3 years, but in the end, I couldn't hold back anymore and made a mistake. I fastened a silver chain around her ankle and told her coldly, "Don't even think about leaving me in this lifetime." The first month, she was defiant, warning me to let her go. The second month, she began to compromise, tacitly allowing me to sleep beside her. The third month, she started pushing her luck, grilling me about why I was 5 minutes late coming home, questioning if I was messing around with other women outside. Right now, she is sitting on the bed, her slender fingers lightly twirling the silver chain on her ankle. The corners of her eyes are slightly red, yet her lips curve into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Mugu, work ends at 6. Even with traffic, 20 minutes is enough to get home. She looks at me coolly, sneers, her red lips forming a dangerous arc. But you've been 5 minutes late for 3 days straight. Spit it out. Are you fooling around with some tramp outside? I swallow hard, feeling inexplicably nervous, looking at her tensely. She slowly leans forward, her long legs spreading to kneel on either side of my body, gazing down at me. Her eyes are slightly red, yet hold a chilling smile. Her fingertips idly wind the silver chain as she murmurs nonchalantly, "Did you forget what I said yesterday? For every minute you're late, we add one more time." With a forceful tug, she wraps the chain around my ankle, her tone light. "Perhaps this chain suits you better than me." My eyes fly open in terror. I open my mouth to explain, but she fiercely seals my lips. I completely break down inside. Who exactly is the Yandere here? Clearly, she used to be an unattainable ice queen. 2 months ago, I did the craziest thing in my life. I kidnapped my boss, Xia Shuer. That was the third year I had secretly loved her. 3 years ago, she was my senior in university. After graduation, I swallowed my pride, asked everyone I knew for help, and finally got in her company through an internal referral. I thought just being near her, just looking at her, would be enough. But the more I looked, the more I wanted. So I decided to confess. However, on the very day I mustered the courage, I saw her standing intimately with another man, holding a large bouquet of roses. My attempt failed before it even began. Anger surged through me. An idea flashed in my mind, a bold and crazy one. I would kidnap her and take her home. So I used the excuse of feeling unwell and asked her the trouble of taking me home. Once at my door, I used the pretext of having a drink to trick her inside. Then, one bottle of beer was enough to knock her out. Speaking of which, Xia Shuer's alcohol tolerance is truly terrible. I've never met a northerner with such low tolerance. She's practically a disgrace to the north. While she was unconscious, I forcefully dragged her into the bedroom and used a thin silver chain I had prepared in advance to firmly lock her ankle. But looking at her peacefully sleeping face, I felt troubled. I really wanted to get up to something, but she was out cold. Just me wanting it was useless. I could only wait for her to wake up. An hour later, Xia Shuer's eyelids fluttered slightly, and she slowly opened her eyes. She looked down at the chain on her ankle, frowned, and said coldly, "Mugu, are you unlawfully detaining me?" Meeting her dark, deep eyes, my earlier passion instantly turned into cold sweat. I felt incredibly guilty but still braced myself to warn her, "From now on, don't even think about leaving me in this lifetime. Don't think about escaping. This chain is made of titanium alloy. Forget you, even an elephant couldn't break free if chained with this." Xia Shuer looked at me with a peculiar expression, then suddenly asked bluntly, "You like me?" Her direct question hit me like a blow, and my face instantly flushed crimson. I stammered, "Yes, yes, I've liked you for 3 years. But what about you? It's one thing if you don't like me back, but you're going to be with another man? I absolutely cannot allow that." I desperately recalled lines from those obsessive romance novels, blushing as I continued, "From now on, your eyes can only see me, your mind can only think of me, and your body belongs only to me." However, Xia Shuer just looked at me coldly, her voice as chilling as the winter wind. "Impossible. I advise you to let me go immediately. I will never submit." Her gaze was too cold, so cold it sent shivers down my spine. I threw out a few harsh words and fled the bedroom in embarrassment. Actually, at that very moment, I already regretted it. This was illegal detention, a crime. Worse still, Xia Shui'er wasn't some flower on a high peak, untouched by the mortal world delicate woman. Rumor had it she was a Taekwondo black belt and had also trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I had personally seen her being harassed once. She took the guy down with a single move. This flimsy chain I had, what titanium alloy? It was just a cheap dog chain I bought randomly, only as thick as my little finger. She could break free with a little effort, and wouldn't she beat me to death then? But I truly craved her. I gritted my teeth hard, my heart set. To die for beauty makes even death glamorous. This obsessive role, I was determined to play it. The first month, Xia Shui'er, just as she said, would rather die than yield. Every time I entered the bedroom, she would stare at me coldly, her eyes looking at me as if I were already dead. Every time I wanted to reach out and touch her, her icy glare scared me into retracting my hand. Once, I snuck into the bedroom at night, wanting to test her attitude. But as soon as I touched her hand, she suddenly opened her eyes. The moonlight reflected in her pupils, making her look like a beautiful vampire just awakened. I trembled in fear, fled in disarray, and never dared to go again. But she didn't leave. It seemed she actually believed my nonsense about the titanium alloy chain, like an elephant tethered by a small stake, trapped in place by a flimsy restraint. Fortunately, the chain was long enough, and the room had an ensuite bathroom. She could go wherever she needed within the room without affecting her daily life. Since force wasn't working, I switched to a softer approach. Every day, I would go into her room and ramble on, recounting the history of my secret crush on her over and over again. But she never acknowledged me. Whenever I mentioned times when I used to have her undivided attention, she would turn her head away, as if disgusted even by the sight of me. By the end of the month, I finally started to lose heart. Perhaps a forced melon isn't sweet. At most, I could only watch her secretly. I could never truly possess her. I began to seriously consider, maybe I should just send her back and then turn myself in. Actually, I understood. How could someone like Xia Shui'er ever fall for me? She was always the most dazzling presence in any crowd, while I was just the drab background beside her. Falling for Xia Shui'er was far too easy. That year, I had just joined the art club, preparing for a performance at the evening gala. I was partnered with a girl, rehearsing a piano and violin duet. But the day before the performance, her boyfriend got jealous, threatened her with a breakup, and forced her not to go on stage. Suddenly, without a partner, I was lost and frantic. Just then, Xia Shui'er passed by. She picked up the violin, her tone casual. Play. I'll accompany you. The performance was an incredible success. When the last note faded, thunderous applause erupted from the audience. Later, I found out she wasn't even in the arts club. She was the student council president and had just happened to be passing by that day. Seeing how pitiful I looked, she lent me a hand out of kindness. I went to thank her, full of gratitude, but she just nodded faintly and turned to leave. At that moment, I understood. She was someone from the clouds, while I was merely dust on the ground. To her, it was probably just an insignificant episode in her life. But for me, from that day on, she was the only one in my eyes. Later, she graduated and started her own business, and I followed her into her company. But no matter how hard I tried to get close, her attitude towards me was always lukewarm, like a handful of snow cupped in my hands. Right there, yet impossible to warm up. Even now, after I've tied her up and brought her home, she still refuses to yield. I sighed, thinking, forget it, I'll just go see her a few more times tonight. Once I've gotten my fill, I'll let her go. But I didn't expect her to be awake this time. I had just reached the bedside when she suddenly grabbed my wrist. My fingertips touched her palm, and its icy coldness instantly spread through my entire body via my blood. Before I could pull away, just then, Xia Shui'er opened her eyes. In the midnight silence, only the sound of my pounding heart remained. Then, I heard her speak, her voice slightly hoarse. Mugu, you're sick. I don't know if it was my imagination, but I seemed to detect a hint of exasperated disappointment in her eyes. I opened my mouth, stuttering, unable to speak. She sat up, rubbing her temples, her tone resigned. You want to sleep with me that badly? I nodded, replying confidently, obviously. Why else would I tie you up? Xia Shui'er looked at me, silent for a long while, her expression like that of a high society lady forced into prostitution. Finally, She sighed and heavily conceded. Fine. Move in and sleep here tonight. She paused, then warned, but only sleeping. Nothing else. Happiness came so suddenly. I nodded frantically. If we can't, we can't. Now that I've moved in, can the rest be far behind? Xia Shuer shot me a sideways glance, saying disdainfully, bring your pillow. And so, starting that night, I finally got my wish and slept in the same bed with Xia Shuer. Every day, I could happily watch her, feeling like even my dreams had turned pink. The only regret was, every morning when Xia Shuer woke up, her face was as black as the bottom of the pot. I guess that her body had probably yielded, but her heart still felt humiliated. Another month of this passed, and Xia Shuer became increasingly irritable. From her initial lukewarm attitude towards me, she progressed to meddling in everything I did, even asking what time I got off work. I wondered, the company was gone, why did she still care about these things? But strangely, although the company was supposedly gone, everything continued to operate as usual, and it was even growing larger. Recently, being short-staffed, she even hired a batch of interns. Among them was a young intern assigned to me, Lu Xiao. She was a university student yet to graduate, 168 centimeters tall, with a small mole on her high-bridged nose and long, straight eyelashes when she looked down. The deadliest part was her sweet tongue. She called me Big Brother. All day long, studied diligently, and even pulled me aside after work to ask all sorts of questions. Although my heart belonged only to Xia Shuer, faced with such a beauty, who could refuse her questions? So, that day for the first time, I came home half an hour late. The moment I entered, I felt the heavy, low pressure in the room. Xia Shuer's face was darker than the night outside. When she brought me my meal, she unexpectedly plopped down onto my lap and buried her head in my shoulder. I thought she had finally come around, getting so excited I was beside myself. But then she suddenly spoke coldly. Why do you smell of perfume? I froze, the faint, fresh scent Lu Xiao wore flashing through my mind. It must have rubbed off when I was teaching her how to use the company printer today. We were standing too close. Does Xia Shuer have a dog's nose? How could she smell that? Seeing my silence, she suddenly sneered, telling me every day how much you like me, and yet you're tired of me in less than 3 months? Found some woman on the side? She sat up from on top of me, scoffed, her tone icy. Just as I thought. Once you get something, you stop cherishing it. She turned her head to look at me, the emotions deep in her eyes dark and unreadable. Slowly, she said, Muge, I think I've finally seen through you. Wait, what's with this bitter, complaining tone? I quickly explained, no, it's just that the new intern is really eager to learn, so I just showed her how to use the printer. Doesn't even know how to use a printer? Is the bar Huaya really that low now? Can any moron get in? Xia Shuer's expression darkened further. She reached under the pillow, pulled out a phone, her eyes cold. What's her name? I'll have HR fire her. My eyes widened. Wait, where did you get a phone? Didn't I confiscate your phone? Wait, she has a phone? Then why didn't she call someone to rescue her? Xia Shuer was visibly startled for a moment, her expression blanking for half a second. Then she composed herself, casually tossed the phone aside, and the next second, she fiercely pushed me down onto the bed. The dim yellow light reflected on her collarbones, light and shadow flowing, the hollowed shadows utterly captivating me. Just moments ago, I was puzzled about her phone, but now all thoughts of it were driven from my mind. Xia Shuer half knelt over me, the corners of her mouth slowly lifting into a dangerous smile that sent a chill down my spine. At some point, she had used the silver chain cut from her ankle to deftly bind my wrists, wrapping it around the bedpost. Her tone was indifferent. You came home half an hour late today. I need to punish you. After that, my relationship with Xia Shuer became ambiguous. She never said anything, and I never asked. I was afraid that if I asked, the answer wouldn't be what I wanted to hear. I had long grown accustomed to chasing her, and loving someone too much often strips you of your courage. Perhaps it was a case of being lucky in love, but unlucky at work. The next day, as I finished packing up to leave after work, our team leader, Wang Yi, came over and leaned half-sitting against my desk. I frowned. Wang Yi had previously always been dismissive and arrogant towards me, But ever since she found out my family had bought an apartment locally, paying in full, she had started relentlessly targeting me. Her family was from the countryside, and buying property locally on her salary alone wasn't realistic. So lately, she'd been sticking to me like glue, constantly finding excuses to ask me out. Today, she approached with a smile, shout, and mo. A new hot pot place just opened on the east side. How about you treat me to dinner tonight? Consider it a chance to get closer to your leader. I was incredibly annoyed, but managed to keep most of it off my face, showing only a slight impatience. Sorry, I have plans tonight. Wang, he narrowed her eyes. What plans? Do you have a girlfriend? I paused for a moment, then nodded. But Wang, he wouldn't let go. Who are you kidding? I've never seen this girlfriend. Are you feeling pressured about having dinner with me? Don't be nervous. I'm actually very easygoing. I couldn't be bothered dealing with her and stood up to leave. Seeing I wasn't receptive, her expression instantly soured, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Muge, so what if you bought an apartment? Let me tell you, I can buy one whenever I want. That dump you bought is in the suburbs, you know? I wouldn't even waste a glance on it. If I buy, I'm buying downtown. I ignored her and walked straight out. Just as I reached the elevator, she suddenly grabbed my arm. I was about to shake her off when suddenly a slender, pale hand reached out coldly and pulled her hand off my arm. So jealous you bought an apartment? Then maybe you should go sell yourself. Wang was stunned. I turned my head and saw, to my surprise, it was Lu Xiao. She glanced indifferently at Wang Yi and sneered. Looking at you, if you tried selling yourself, you'd probably have to pay them. Wang Yi's lips trembled with anger. She struggled a few times but couldn't break free at all. Wanting to curse, she was shut down by Lu Xiao and couldn't speak. Finally, she could only leave, ashen-faced and humiliated. I looked at Lu Xiao, slightly stunned. Thank you. Lu Xiao, whose face had just held hostility and coldness, blinked, instantly changing back into that clear-eyed university student girl. Her tone was light. It's nothing, Muge. Since you're too embarrassed to stoop to arguing with a woman, let me give her a piece of my mind for you. She glanced outside. It's raining. Shall I give you a ride home? I thought for a moment and nodded. Lu Xiao's car was an older model Honda that looked quite aged. As I fastened my seatbelt, I couldn't help but say, seriously, thank you for today. But Wang Yi is quite petty. I'm worried she might target you in the future. Steering with one hand, Lu Xiao curled her lip playfully, her tone teasing. Me? Afraid she'll target me. I subconsciously glanced at her wrist and noticed she was wearing a very expensive watch, enough to buy 10 cars. People at the company had long speculated privately whether she was some rich heiress just experiencing life. After all, poverty can be faked, but that innate sense of relaxed confidence and elegance she possessed couldn't be feigned. Thinking about it, if her family really had connections, then Wang Yi was hardly a threat. I breathed a sigh of relief and leaned back in the passenger seat. Just then, Lu Xiao suddenly turned her head, looking at me with an ambiguous smile. Muge, heading home, so early. Are you really going back to see your girlfriend? My throat tightened. For a moment, I didn't know how to describe my relationship with Xia Shuer. I couldn't possibly say she was the person I was illegally detaining, the one I had a physical relationship with, but no official title. Could I? I could only vaguely deflect. Just a friend. Lu Xiao chuckled lightly, her tone somewhat thoughtful. That's good. I was thinking, I might not have a chance anymore. It wasn't that I hadn't noticed Lu Xiao's interest in me. When she first joined the company as a management trainee, the old hands, worried she might eventually gun for a leadership spot, were reluctant to mentor her, so she was eventually assigned to me. I had indeed taught her diligently over these past days, and slowly, she became increasingly clingy. Every day, she found countless excuses to come by my office. It reached the point where even colleagues noticed, some jokingly asking, "Is Lu Xiao pursuing you?" But the person I liked was Xia Shuer. No matter how beautiful the college student was, I only admired her from a distance. I waved dismissively and gave a perfunctory reply. Hoya doesn't permit office romances. Besides, we have a 3-year age gap. You should focus that energy on younger guys. Don't waste your time on me. But Lu Xiao just kept looking at me with a gentle smile, saying nothing. When we arrived downstairs, just as I was about to unbuckle my seatbelt, she suddenly leaned closer. A familiar, Faint fragrance drifted around my nose, carrying a hint of subtle intimacy. The seatbelt seemed stuck. We were too close. I froze, not daring to move. After a few seconds, she unfastened the seatbelt, a slight smile playing on her lips. Mugu, aren't you going to invite me up for tea? Her eyes held undisguised expectation. Perhaps because it was too warm in the car, the heat in my face lingered. Almost awkwardly, I pushed open the car door and mumbled, "It's not convenient today. Next time." "Thank you." Then, I practically fled up the stairs. I had actually planned my arrival time carefully today. But because of this little detour, I was now 5 minutes late. As soon as I walked in the door, I saw Xia Schweger standing at the landing, looking down at me imperiously. I instantly realized this was bad. 1 minute late, add one. Wouldn't this go on until the middle of the night? My mind raced. Suddenly, I grabbed her by the shoulders and snapped angrily. "How dare you glare at me? Do you have any idea I was harassed at work today?" Xia Schweger paused, her brow furrowing slightly. "Who harassed you?" I averted my gaze, saying coldly, "Wang Yi from marketing." She saw I bought a house and insisted I treat her to dinner, wouldn't let it go. Xia Schwerer swung her legs off the bed and casually picked up her phone. A few seconds later, the call connected. Before the person on the other end could speak, she said coldly, "There's someone named Wang Yi in marketing. Have her pack her things and get out tomorrow. And tell all our partner companies, if any of them hire her, cancel our cooperation immediately." She hung up, turned around, her gaze falling on me. Her tone was calm, almost chillingly so. "Why didn't you tell me sooner when things like this happened before?" I muttered under my breath. "What are we? What good would telling you do?" Xia Schwerer fell silent, her expression turning a little sour. In that instant, I suddenly remembered the question Lu Xiao had asked me today. Lowering my gaze, I asked softly, "Xia Schwerer, what exactly are we? What? What do you really think?" She was willing to play this confinement game with me here, willing to have the most intimate relations with me countless times. But she never mentioned what we actually were to each other. Maybe because I was already in a bad mood today, my mind was a mess, and some words finally spilled out, unable to be held back. Perhaps she was just bored, looking for some amusement with me. If she really had feelings for me, why would she always be like this, ambiguous and unclear with me? I lacked courage because I liked her too much. What about her? Was it because she didn't like me at all? A bitter taste suddenly rose in my throat. I raised my hand and casually tossed the silver chain, which she had pulled off earlier, onto the bed. "You don't have to give me an answer right now. If our feelings are mutual, I hope to still see you at home when I get back from work tomorrow. If you're not interested in me, then just leave tomorrow." After saying that, I turned and left the room, feeling somewhat flustered. It wasn't that I didn't want to make things clear face to face. It was just that merely looking at her made me feel timid. She was Xia Schwerer. She was the favored daughter of heaven, a flower on a high peak, a woman standing where everyone looked up to. She never lacked men pursuing her, many of whom were far better off than I was. What could she possibly like about me? If she told me to my face that she didn't like me, I couldn't bear it. That night, neither of us spoke again. The house was frighteningly quiet, so still it felt as if the air had frozen, with only occasional faint sounds coming from the bedroom, like secret whispers in the dark. I didn't sleep all night. The next day, I was distracted and completely unable to focus on work. But it happened to be an especially busy day. The boss had us contacting clients, and I spent the whole day making calls, feeling dizzy, my throat dry and hoarse, my head about to explode. I finally breathed a sigh of relief when work ended. Dragging my exhausted body to the front door, I took a deep breath, my hand hovering over the lock. I actually wanted to delay a bit longer, but every minute of procrastination made me more anxious, unable to sit still. In the end, I decided to come back. Might as well face the music. It's better to rip the Band-Aid off. Besides, it wasn't entirely impossible that Xia Schwerer might like me. In those late nights, we had been intimate countless times. She would whisper my name in my ear. At least in those moments when we held each other tightly, I felt she loved me. I closed my eyes for a moment and pushed the door open, stepping inside. The living room was deathly quiet, so silent you could hear a pin drop. My blood seemed to turn cold instantly. The next second, I dashed into the bedroom in just a few strides. The bedroom was completely empty. Only a dull silver chain remained on the bed. The duvet was folded neatly, the sheets so smooth it looked as if no one had ever slept there. The dim, yellow light of dusk spilled into the room. Fine dust motes floated in the air. I stood alone in this fractured light and shadow, slowly reaching up to press my hand against my heart. Strange. There's clearly no wound, so why did it hurt so much? It was as if that sentimental thing in my chest had cracked open, leaving behind only cold, scattered remnants. Fine. Suddenly, a cold voice echoed in my mind. Being able to sleep with her for so long was already getting the better end of the deal. What more could I ask for? We were never people from the same world. Anyway, I looked down and reached out to pick up the silver chain. It had long lost its warmth. Held in my palm, it felt like a chunk of ice. Xia Shuer had disappeared. She didn't even go back to the company. All her contact methods led to dead numbers. She was really avoiding me. She had truly vanished from my world. That night, I lay alone in the bed she had slept in for 3 months. When dawn broke, I completely blocked all her contact information. I had tried so hard to convince myself, but those late-night embraces and the warmth turned out to be fake. From beginning to end, I was just a clown. Xia Shuer had never liked me, not even a little bit. That day, the summer rain came without warning. Just after getting off work, a torrential downpour began. I didn't have an umbrella and couldn't get a taxi, so I simply walked home in the rain. Passing by a school, I saw a young couple, probably dating too early. The boy took off his school uniform jacket and draped it over the girl's head. They huddled close together and dashed into the curtain of rain. How nice. 2 people getting soaked together is called romance. 1 person getting soaked alone is called pathetic. The rain fell harder and harder. I could barely keep my eyes open, but this was fine too. This way, you couldn't tell if it was rain or tears on my face. How embarrassing. I wasn't a 17 or 18-year-old kid anymore. Yet here I was, a mess like this over a breakup. Just as I was randomly wiping the water from my face, a car horn blared through the rain. A black G-Wagon pulled over steadily by the roadside. The car door opened. Lu Xiao, wearing a camisole and shorts, shielded her head with her hand and dashed into the rain, shouting at me, "Mu Ge, get in." I scrambled into the car, took the piece of clothing Lu Xiao handed me, and wiped my hair while looking down at the logo on it, silent for a few seconds. If I remember correctly, this plaid hoodie, I saw it at the boutique last month. It cost 17,000 yuan. That's almost 2 months of my salary. Speechless, I looked at the nonchalant Lu Xiao. "Do you have any idea how much this costs?" Lu Xiao glanced at it casually. "No idea. It got cold when I went home last week. Just grab it at the mall." Damn rich people. Going to the mall and casually grabbing a 17,000 yuan hoodie, while I have to check the price tag just to buy underwear. Lu Xiao noticed my silence, tilted her head to look at me, and her previously upturned lips suddenly fell. "Who bullied you?" I gave a wry smile and said softly, "No, nobody bullied me. I just got my heart broken, that's all." After a pause, I added with a self-mocking laugh, "Well, not really heartbroken, more like a confession rejected." Lu Xiao didn't say anything. A moment later, she suddenly reached out and gently touched the back of my hand. "That's her loss. Mu Ge, check my pants pocket." I hesitated for a moment, trying my best not to touch her, then reached in and pulled out a small blue velvet box. Opening it revealed a tie clip inlaid with small diamonds, exquisite and beautiful. "I saw it the other day and thought it would suit you perfectly." She smiled at me, her gaze so gentle it made my heart skip a beat. I froze for a second, then quickly shook my head. "No, this is too expensive. I can't accept it." Lu Xiao tilted her head, chuckling softly. "Just consider it a thank you gift for teaching me these past few days. Don't refuse me." She paused, then said softly, "I'm resigning tomorrow to go back to school." I froze. "Will you come back again?" The words had barely left my mouth when I realized what a stupid question I'd asked. A rich young lady like Lu Xiao, whose family definitely owned businesses, how could she possibly work for someone else's company? Sure enough, she glanced at me and smiled. "Mu Ge, are you going to miss me?" Her smile faded, and she said softly, "After I graduate, I'll have to go home and work. I probably won't be coming back to Hawaii anymore." My heart felt inexplicably heavy. The time I'd spent with Lu Xiao had been so easy, so pleasant. The thought of not seeing her again left a strange feeling inside me. Lu Xiao winked at me, her tone light. But I'll still come find you to hang out. Downstairs, she saw me into the building entrance. Just as I was about to leave, she suddenly called out to me. I turned back. She took out the tie clip and gently pinned it onto my tie. She focused on adjusting my tie. We were so close I could count every one of her long eyelashes. A step away, the rain poured down. In this small space, it was just the two of us. Lu Xiao looked up at me, her light amber eyes reflecting the light. She called softly, Mu Ge. A sharp voice shattered the brief silence. What are you two doing? I whipped my head around and saw Xia Shue'er standing in the rain. She held a black umbrella, rain sliding down its edges. The breeze lifted the hem of her skirt, revealing a glimpse of her slender, pale calves. She wore a well-tailored black suit dress. Behind her gold-rimmed glasses, her gaze was cold, the lenses reflecting a hint of mockery. Her voice was crisp and cold, laced with sarcasm. No wonder you didn't answer my calls or reply to my texts. Found someone new, I see. She curled her thin lips, her smile icy and tinged with resentment. Mugu, you're really something. Didn't you say you liked me? What? Is that what you tell everyone? I froze. Then anger surged through me, my knuckles turning white as I clenched my fists. Xia Shue'er, are you crazy? You were the one who left first, and now you're blaming me. Just because you don't like me, does that mean I have to hang around you like some pathetic admirer? Xia Shue'er frowned, her voice low. I left, but that was because my dad was in a car accident in the U.S. and hospitalized. She looked up at me, her voice carrying a chilling disbelief. I called you, you didn't answer. I texted you, you didn't reply. Wasn't it because you'd already taken an interest in her? She pointed a slender finger at Lu Xiao, who stood nearby. I was stunned. It was true. An unfamiliar number had called me several times that day. But around that time, my personal information had been leaked, and I'd been getting constant spam calls about loans. I assumed it was just another one of those and didn't think anything of it. Texts? Frowning, I quickly pulled out my phone. Sure enough, in the spam folder, I found a text message from an unknown number. Mugu, my dad had a car accident in the U.S. I have to go there first. I've thought carefully about what you said. I wasn't just playing around with you, but something like liking someone, I didn't want to handle it so carelessly over text. I wanted to come back and tell you in person. My heart plummeted, my fingers trembling slightly. You changed your number? I asked, my voice hoarse. Xia Shue'er gave a cold laugh, her voice laced with exhaustion. My main number was disconnected. This is my secondary number. I clutched my phone tightly, explaining frantically. I really didn't see it. The unknown number got filtered into my spam folder. But she just looked at me quietly, her expression as cold as if she were looking at a stranger. Mugu, I was supposed to stay with my dad for another month. But as soon as you were out of danger, I came back. Her voice was terribly hoarse, the corners of her eyes red. Gritting her teeth, she asked in a low voice, Do you have any idea how I've spent the past half-month? I wanted to send you a WeChat message, only to find you deleted and blocked me. I sent you text messages. You never replied once. I was frantic. I rushed back on the earliest flight. I also thought, this was just a misunderstanding. She paused, slowly turned her head to look at Lu Xiao, her voice as cold as a blade. Too bad I was mistaken. There's no misunderstanding at all. It's just that you found someone new. She gave a low laugh, her voice so faint it seemed like it would dissipate the next second. Misunderstanding? It's not a misunderstanding at all. She looked at me, her gaze cold. Then tell me, what were you two doing just now? I was only gone for half a month. I opened my mouth, but couldn't utter a single word. Honestly, even I couldn't deny the atmosphere just now was ambiguous. Xia Shue'er didn't give me another glance, turned, and got into the car. The black Rolls-Royce sped away into the rain screen, disappearing completely from my sight. Is she the one who rejected your confession? After a long silence in the car, Lu Xiao asked softly. I lowered my head and nodded sullenly. Then, I reached out, removed the tie clip, and handed it back to her. Here's your gift back. I really can't accept it, but thank you. Lu Xiao froze. Then, after a moment, A bitter smile touched her lips, truly heartless. She took the tie clip, her eyes darkening slightly, and said in a low voice, "All right, I'll take it back this time. I hope next time you won't reject me again." I was already distraught, completely unable to discern the deeper meaning behind her words. Afterwards, we said goodbye, and I went upstairs. On the overcast evening, the room was dark and oppressive. I sat alone on the edge of the bed, looking at the text message Xia Shui'er had once sent me. She said she liked me, so she liked me too. I slowly buried my face in my knees, my heart feeling as if it were being crushed. I admit, when I saw Lu Xiao approaching me earlier, my heart hesitated for a moment. I thought, surely someone in this world likes me. If Xia Shui'er doesn't like me, then I won't like her anymore either. But while she was missing me from across the ocean, what was I doing when I didn't dare to wait? What must she have been feeling? I'm such an idiot, I messed everything up. The next day, Xia Shui'er returned to the company. I both wanted to see her and dreaded seeing her. When we bumped into each other in the elevator by chance, she walked past me without looking sideways, not even sparing me a peripheral glance. Her attitude was clear. She truly didn't want anything more to do with me. I agonized for several days, unsure how to apologize to her. Just as I was considering whether to just rush into her office and beg for forgiveness while hugging her legs, the colleague next to me suddenly nudged me, winking suggestively. "Mugu, did you know our boss is getting married?" My hands froze mid-action. "What?" He chuckled and handed over his phone. The official account just posted it. She's engaged to the third son of Runyu. In the photo on the screen, the man was tall and handsome, the woman exquisite and beautiful. The two stood side by side, a perfect couple. Even I had to admit, they truly looked well-matched. The world suddenly became very quiet. Without a word, I walked towards Xia Shui'er's office. I needed to ask her myself. But just as I reached the office door, a man walked out from inside. He wore a well-tailored suit, carried a sharp aura, walked with composure, a smile on her face, her fingers intertwined with Xia Shui'er's, speaking gently. "Then I'll come see you again tomorrow. Don't forget to eat properly." Xia Shui'er stood behind him, her eyes full of a gentle smile, and said softly, "All right, be careful on your way back. Message me when you get home." Her voice was gentler than ever before. A side of her I had never witnessed. Except in bed, she had never been like this towards me. I froze on the spot, staring blankly at the scene, as if my very blood had turned to ice. The man noticed my presence, frowning slightly, his tone questioning, "Shui'er, who is this?" Xia Shui'er's gaze finally landed on me. She merely glanced at me coolly, her gaze distant, devoid of any warmth. Just someone unimportant. With that, she linked arms with the man and brushed past me. I stood, rooted to the spot, as if someone had struck me hard over the head. My feet felt frozen to the ground. I couldn't take a single step. It felt as though the blood had instantly drained from my heart. Otherwise, how could I no longer even hear it beating? Someone unimportant. Right, I was just someone unimportant. Until a colleague passed by, patted my shoulder, and said with a smile, "Mugu, what's up?" "Looking for President Xia. She just saw her fiancé off. Maybe come back in a little while." "Fiancé?" I lower my head, lightly touching my chest, forcing a smile onto my lips. But even I knew how miserable and ridiculous that smile looked. "It's nothing. I'm not looking for her anymore." The next day, I submitted my resignation. My boss and colleagues tried to persuade me to stay, asking why I was leaving when I was doing so well. After a long silence, I finally just said, because my reason for being here is gone. I had joined this company solely for Xia Shui'er. Now that she was engaged, it was time for me to leave too. On my last day, I ran into Xia Shui'er by the elevators. She was still in her sharp business suit, her demeanor cold, aloof and distant like an untouchable flower on a high peak, showing no trace of the woman who had once been chained to my bed with a silver link. She glanced at the suitcase in my hand, her voice calm, betraying no emotion. "You're leaving?" I nodded, saying nothing. She tilted her head slightly, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips, her tone tinged with sarcasm. "Well done, Mugu. You really are something." She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. I didn't know what she meant by that, nor could I be bothered to guess anymore. Things had already reached this point. She wasn't going to give up the advantageous marriage for me. What was the point of dragging this out any further? It would only lead to more humiliation for me. So, summoning my last shred of dignity, I said to her, "I wish you both happiness." But she just stared intently at me, silent. The elevator arrived quickly. I turned and left, but I could feel her gaze burning into my back, never wavering. News of Xia Shui's engagement spread quickly, even appearing in the local newspaper. The picture showed them, a handsome couple, looking like a match made in heaven. The engagement was set for June. As for me, I don't know how I got through those days. Frantically sending out resumes, desperately finding things to do, anything to keep myself from being idle. Because the moment I stopped, I would remember. The bedroom that had once been hers, I locked it, making it a forbidden zone in my home. The bedding sets on which we had held each other countless times, I threw them all out, as if doing so could discard the memories along with them. During this period, Lu Xiao often came looking for me. "There's a new milk tea shop open in the East End. Lots of people are queuing up. I want to try it. Want to come along? There's a new barbecue place in the West End. I hear it's great. Want to go?" At first, I refused every time, even bluntly telling her, "I'm not looking to date anyone right now." But each time she would just smile and reply, "That's okay. I'll ask again next time. Maybe you'll say yes then." Again and again, I really couldn't bring myself to refuse her anymore. So, we went out a few times. I had to admit, young girls possess a certain magic. When I was with her, my mood genuinely seemed to lighten considerably. When she held out the Tonglalu for me to take a bite, I really did forget all my sorrows. But back home at night, alone, those memories clung to me like shadows, making me unable to stop thinking the moment I closed my eyes. This day, Lu Xiao asked me out again. "Lots of seagulls have come to the beach recently. Want to go feed them together?" We walked barefoot on the sand, the salty, damp sea breeze carrying the freshness of mist, the sound of waves crashing against the reefs in our ears. I suddenly felt much more relaxed. "Mugu, what kind of woman do you like?" Lu Xiao tilted her head, looking at me, a hint of probing amusement in her eyes. I thought for a moment and replied casually, "Someone who looks great in a suit, seems very proper on the surface, but is actually secretly passionate. Someone I could talk a lot with, preferably wearing gold-rimmed glasses." Before I could finish speaking, the image of someone had already surfaced in my mind. I froze. Not far away, a couple was drawing hearts in the sand, laughing as they chased each other playfully. Finally, tired from their playing, the two sat side by side on the sand. The sea breeze gently ruffled the girl's long hair. She suddenly tilted her head and asked, "Later, if we break up, what then?" The boy paused for a second, then, after a moment's silence, gently took her hand. I lowered my head, staring blankly at the grains of sand in my palm. "Then I'll win you back." The boy tilted his head slightly, thought seriously for a moment, then added with a smile, "And what if I can't win you back? Then I'll keep chasing until I win you back." "Mugu, actually." Lu Xiao seemed to want to say something, but my mind was in turmoil, unable to take anything in. Just then, the leisurely chimes of a distant church bell rang out. I belatedly realized that today was Xia Shui's engagement day. Another man would put a ring on her finger, vowing to love her forever. She would intimately share a bed with another person, having nothing more to do with me ever again. The sea breeze tousled my hair. My heart felt as if something had gripped it tightly, filling it with an indescribable emotion. At this moment, I wanted to see Xia Shui. Once the thought surfaced, I couldn't control it anymore. I turned my head abruptly. "Sorry, something urgent came up. I have to go now." Lu Xiao just watched me quietly, her gaze complex. After a moment, she asked in a low voice, "Are you going to find Xia Shui?" I nodded. She lowered her eyelashes, silent for a long while, finally managing a resigned smile. "It's hard to get a taxi to the church from here. I'll drive you." I was taken aback, unsure what to say, and could only thank her awkwardly. She sighed and said softly, "No need for thanks. If she doesn't treat you well in the future, just come back and find me." The whole drive, my heart burned with anxiety. I was afraid I'd be too late, afraid the engagement ceremony would already be over. Lu Xiao sped the whole way, stopping the car right at the church entrance. I jumped out of the car and rushed straight into the church. I had never run so fast in my entire life. But I just wanted to be faster, even faster, so I could see her sooner. I shoved the main doors open forcefully. They slammed against the wall with a loud bang. My panting echoed clearly in the vast emptiness of the church. Soft light filtered through the rose window, falling upon the priest's white robes. And beside him stood Xia Shuer. Her figure was bathed in the gentle colors of the light, like someone out of a painting. My eyes widened as I stared at her, stunned. But, aside from her and the priest, there was no one else in the church. No guests, no groom. I stood rooted to the spot, my mind a tangled mess. Am I early? Or perhaps, am I late, and everything is already over? But if it's over, where is the groom? Just as I was at a complete loss, Xia Shuer suddenly revealed a smile of relief. She looked at the priest and said softly, "My fiancé has arrived. We can begin." I was utterly dumbfounded. Wait. I stammered, my mind completely blank. Aren't you getting engaged to the scion of Runyu today? Xia Shuer walked up to me, gently took my hand, a sly smile playing on her lips. He and I just have a business arrangement. He didn't want to listen to his family and marry someone he had no feelings for. So I invested in his company, helped him start his business, so he could break free from his family's control. And she raised an eyebrow, was supposed to pretend to be my fiancé in front of you. I was speechless. You tricked me. Xia Shuer chuckled lightly, but her eyes were serious. What else, Mugu? I kept waiting for you to come find me, but what I got instead was your resignation and departure. She tilted her head slightly, her tone light. I thought, if I didn't do this, you wouldn't have come either. I laughed out of anger. Then why didn't you just come find me yourself? Xia Shuer looked down at me, scoffing. You were the one being lovey-dovey with another woman right in front of me first. Did you think I would still humble myself to look for you? Do I have any pride left? Fortunately, you didn't disappoint me. I almost laughed out of exasperation. What if I hadn't come today? Xia Shuer was silent for a long time. After a moment, she said softly, then I would have figured out another way. Her gaze suddenly softened. She slowly extended her hand, offering a ring inlaid with small diamonds towards me. Consider it borrowed from me. In the future, you have to buy one to give back to me. My throat tightened, my heart pounding chaotically. Beside us, the priest watched with a smile, his tone gentle. Young man, why are you still standing there stunned? Xia Shuer gazed deeply at me, her expression earnest. Mugu, you still owe me an apology. But I also owe you something. I like you very much. I snapped my head up, looking at her. She sighed softly and continued. Actually, I noticed you a long time ago. But my dad had an affair when I was young, causing my mom to fall into depression and commit suicide. So, all these years, I've been very resistant to relationships. I stared at her blankly, my heart jolted. Thinking back, it was true. I had never seen her date anyone. Not only had she not dated, but there wasn't even a man she was particularly close to around her. For a while, people even secretly speculated if she liked women. I gave a wry smile. If she hadn't seemed so hard to pursue, I wouldn't have come up with such a harebrained idea like tying her up and taking her home. Xia Shuer's gaze met mine directly, so earnest it was hard to look away. I've always been afraid that my other half would betray me, and afraid that I would become like my dad, the kind of person I hate the most. She let out a soft breath, her lips curving slightly upwards. But now I understand. She looked at me, enunciating each word. I am certain I will not betray you. I will also always treat you well, and keep you by my side forever. She held my hand, asking slowly, So, Mugu, will you marry me? My eyes suddenly stung. My heart felt like it was about to explode. She was proposing. It was her proposing. With trembling hands, I reached out, took the ring, and carefully slid it on her finger. Her ring finger, it seemed, was always meant to wear my ring. My voice was hoarse. I do. 2 months later, Xia Shuer and I got married. Mostly, she was anxious, saying if we didn't get married soon, she was afraid I'd get involved with some other women again. I verbally agreed. How could I? But thought to myself, her possessiveness is more effective than a marriage certificate. On the wedding day, Lu Xiao came too. She wore a light blue dress, holding a glass of champagne, standing in a corner, staring at me resentfully. The dark circles under her eyes clearly showed she hadn't slept last night. Mugu, how is she better than me? She's an old woman. Is she as young and beautiful as I am? As she said this, there was a hint of petulant grievance in her eyes. I chuckled, took Xia Shui's hand, intertwining our fingers, palms pressed together, then looked at Lu Xiao and said word by word, "But I just like her. No matter if she's older than anyone, colder than anyone, harder to pursue than anyone. I just like her." Lu Xiao froze for a moment, then sighed as if deflated, pulling a small, exquisite box from her pocket. She smiled, her tone somewhat resigned. "The tie clip from before. You wouldn't accept it then. Now I'm giving it to you as a wedding gift. You can accept it now, right?" I reached out, took the box, and said softly, "Thank you." She shook her head, a playful curve appearing on her lips. "Don't thank me. If she ever treats you badly, come find me. I'll wait for you." Xia Shui sneered. "You can wait until you die. You still won't get your chance." She gripped my wrist tightly, pulling me behind her as if staking her claim. Lu Xiao glanced at her, pursed her lips, raised her champagne, and took a sip for herself. "Fine, you two be lovey-dovey. Out of sight, out of mind for me." After the wedding, Xia Shui moved into my place. I stared at her, utterly confused. "Are you out of your mind? You have your own detached villa on the hillside, but you insist on living in my small apartment, less than 100 square meters?" She ignored me and walked straight into the bedroom. After a moment, she came out again. Wrapped around her wrist, conspicuously, was that silver chain. She chuckled softly. "I seem to recall you still owe me 5 hours. I instantly became wary, sucking in a sharp breath. "Wait," I said in panic. "Why are you bringing up such ancient history? We're married. The past should stay in the past." Xia Shui narrowed her eyes slightly, a dangerous smile playing on her lips. "Say one more word, and I'll add another session." "Honey, I was wrong." However, it was too late. She easily pushed me down onto the bed, raised her wrist, the silver chain swaying gently, making a crisp sound. She looked down at me, the smile on her lips holding a dangerous edge. "This time, let's see where you can possibly escape."